Hey, what's happening, Archons? Welcome to another edition of KeyThoughts by myself, Blake, aka Boulevard Paper Fight, aka Coach. And today I wanted to talk about a couple things. Probably be a little bit shorter one today, but I said that last time and it wasn't. Last night I had a really great stream. I appreciate everyone who stopped by and entertained myself with their great chats. And shout out to my man Nathan from Tabletop Royale for rating. That was spectacular. Got some new people who got to see me in action and seemed to enjoy it because they subscribed or they followed, which is fantastic. But aside from that, I kind of wanted to talk about the idea of deck value and buying decks in a time when we're not really seeing the ability to play them IRL, due to obviously the ongoing pandemic and the lack of opportunities to get together and play in our normal weekly tournament or more substantial tournaments such as Vault Tours, Grand Champs, those fun things. And I started to question the reason of buying a deck right now and spending hundreds of dollars on one that seems a little bit more top tier when I cannot go to these events. Now, that being said, we do have some great tournaments ongoing right now through the online community that individuals and smaller collectives of people have come together to actually create an ongoing series. I know the KeyForge Premier League is going really strong right now, and it seems to be getting really well received. I'm noticing more and more people talking about it, which is great. Shout out to everyone on that side of things that's putting that together, because I know a lot of work in the back end is happening. And of course, Coat is always ongoing, but it doesn't have the same, I think, prizing associated with it that the KeyForge Premier League is doing, which is attracting really the top tier decks. So with that being said, it made me question like buying a deck. Like I sold my Dav deck, my really good one, and I found one that I could get for a few $100s that had it was different but similar. I realized what I want in a Dav deck now, and I've already bought one which I consider my quote unquote replacement deck, even though it really isn't. But I also was testing this deck and it was fun and it did things, but I couldn't justify spending hundreds of dollars on a deck right now because I realize I'm not going to get to play it. And the one thing, well, when I say play it IRL and in those big tournaments, and I'm not really playing these online tournaments, so it made me question investing in that. And then on top of that, I started thinking about the future of the game. So by the time we are going to be able to play in another, probably IRL tournament, we're going to have seen the new set come out. Set 5 will be probably in the mix by then, which is going to be really interesting because we will have had no top level tournaments in which Mass Mutations has played, which I think is going to be very interesting to see when those two things come together for the first time in a high level tournament. Obviously in Shanghai there is a Grand Championship happening. Who knows when that is, but that is going to be the only real tournament we're going to see maybe Mass Mutations in real life. So it made me just question investing into a deck like that. I don't know what your experiences are, what other people's thoughts are in that matter. I know I'm looking more to the secondary market for things very particularly lately, but I'm kind of holding off on certain things that have a higher price point that I was really considering diving into. And that leads me to my next point, which is the decks of old that are new. And what I mean by that is last night I was jamming one of my old decks that is actually my very first sealed deck I ever opened and I won a tournament with. It's only 66 SAS, but I had so much fun jamming it against Muffins last night and just seeing the way it played, and I was like, wow, this is such a fun experience. So this is more of a PSA. Go back and visit your old decks. Like, seriously, go check them out. There's so many reasons why it's a good experience to do right now. The first one being that you are going to view them differently than you did in the past. And what I mean by that is the amount of KeyForge you've played in between probably when you last played it till now means you've gained more experience, you've gained more knowledge of the game. There's new sets out there which are creating new dynamics in which the meta is played and what you have to look out for. So that's also breathing new life and new experiences when you play those decks. So it's a good idea to just step back, from maybe the hotness that is mass mutation that you have, and go back to some of your classics that you love, some of the originals, and revisit those, because you're going to really find that it's way different playing them now. I did play two decks that way. One that I kind of wrote off, and then I started playing it and I was like, holy crap, this thing can go like a bat out of hell if I get the right cards. And I think a lot of it has to do with my own knowledge of the game has increased, so therefore I can utilize that in this capacity. So I do recommend that maybe don't worry about acquiring new decks right now unless you're really on the hunt for something. Go back and visit some of those favorites. I mean, AOA and Coda are still have really great value in a lot of different ways. And you should just go play with some old decks and rediscover the love you once had for them, especially those ones that have more of a sentimental value. Maybe you won tournaments with it. Maybe you had something that you never had and now you have it. Sometimes they may fall short. I've had that happen too, where you go visit a deck and be like, oh, this deck actually is kind of underwhelming. But it's really good to spend time with some of your old decks and revisit them. It has a really cool, I don't want to say nostalgia, but it is kind of like nostalgia, but it's just this familiarity, and it's like learning something new at the same time, because even if you got a bunch of reps, the time in between will make it a little bit rusty, and then you have a new perspective as well. So when you combine those all together, it provides a really refreshing, quote unquote, new experience, even though it's something old. So yeah, go back and visit some of your classics that you maybe haven't spent a lot of time with, that maybe, as SAS has been updating, they've been jumping up the ladder a little bit too. Go look at those, take them for a spin again. You'd be surprised what you find. I hope you all found this really interesting and entertaining. I know when I was thinking about doing this, I found it really cool, especially when I was jamming these decks last night, these old gems. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Tell me if you've had some experiences recently where you've been visiting old decks, or if you have some that you want to visit. And yeah, please reach out to me on Twitter or comment below, like I said, for any updates on those experiences. I'd be really interested in hearing it. And as always, may your ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.